It's now the time that we have the opportunity to hear from the four distinguished coaches that we have here waiting to speak. I was privileged to be alumni director during all or part of each of these gentlemen's coaching careers at Michigan. I had the pleasure and the privilege of traveling with them to alumni meetings literally across the nation and across the sea. To me, they were always representative of the finest qualities of what it means to be a Michigan person. They always spoke in terms that showed their commitment to excellence, to integrity, and to the values that Jim and Eric and the others have talked about here today. Those values aren't accidental. They come from great teachers. And I think each of these men have been the kinds of teachers that make a difference at Michigan. We talk about our great success, the winningest football program in America. I'd also point out to you that it's the football program that very much makes Michigan a university. Every school and college at Michigan is kind of a tub on its own bottom. People say I graduated from LS&A, the dental school, I majored in economics. But when they're in that stadium, they don't cheer for the Department of Economics, they cheer for Michigan. And year after year after year, when they ranked the top 10, 15, 20 football teams in America, and then they ranked the top 10 academic institutions in America, there is only one university that's on both lists, and that's the University of Michigan, and it's because of the quality of teaching both academically and in the sports field that you see here today. So with that, if we may have the introduction of our first coach speaker, Chalmers Bump Elliott.
Thanks, Bob. That's the best introduction you ever made. You know, I'm a little bit worried because I'm in the era of the 40s and I don't sing very well. But you represented us very well, Bob. It makes me feel quite old to know that some of those people that are here tonight don't remember that song. But it was significant. Actually, men, I'm delighted to be here. I'm thrilled to be here. Be among Michigan people and people that I've known for years and years and years. Those that played with me and those that played for me. And those that I've even coached against, like Alex Agassi down here at Northwestern Purdue, one of the great people, one of the great coaches I've ever known. Alex saw the light and joined Michigan. But what I'd like to do, just give you a couple of ideas or thoughts that have been, you've heard it all evening long, the tradition of Michigan. And believe me, when you think about the tradition of Michigan, it's really a deep-seated thing where all of us feel this great feeling for the university and what we've done, our teammates, our coaches, and all the people that have been involved. And having been on the other side of the fence recently at the University of Iowa, we fought very hard, as Alex would know, we fought very hard to build tradition at the University of Iowa. And it's not easy to do. And one of the answers to the great tradition that you've had here at the Michigan that we've all enjoyed has been the great series of coaches down through the years, starting with Fielding Yost. Now, nobody here played for Yost except Herc. Did you play for Yost? Not really. And then Harry Kipke and Fritz Chrysler, Benny Osterbahn, Bo Schembechler, Gary Moeller, and now Lloyd Carr. Those are some of the greatest coaches, as was mentioned earlier by Jim, and maybe the greatest coach of all was Bo. But those are some of the greatest coaches that ever coached the game of football, and at no time did Michigan have an era where they fired a coach for not winning. They had no traumatic experiences. They had no place in the program to have to rebuild. They just absolutely, on each step of the way, made it possible for the program to continue to be, as it was, a winning program. Number one, when you're trying to build tradition, that's the answer. Have great coaches. Secondly, have great players. And you are the people that made the difference as far as that is concerned. The other thought I had in mind about Michigan people is this, that in this era of professional athletics, and I believe in it to a degree, anyway, I think there's a selfishness, there's a thought about me and me alone, and we don't have, in my opinion, the examples, the role models, the people that we should have in the forefront as far as former football players or basketball or wherever it may be. And I think at Michigan we've been unselfish, we've extended ourselves, we've wanted to be a part of the role model situation. We've wanted to make football and athletics at the university level important to young people. And I think I just heard the young man who was representing the national championship team say exactly that. He is representing the game of football and not himself. That's what I believe Michigan's all about. And that's why I think the tradition not only continues now, but will continue in the future. You have one of the greatest coaches in the country in Lloyd Carr here right now, and I know that you'll support him in all the ways that are necessary to keep this program going. Thanks very much. It's my great pleasure to be with all of you, and particularly the guys that I coached and played with. It's a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. In all honesty, I'm glad I don't have to come up with the words to introduce Bo. I'm not sure there are words to appropriately introduce him. I think we all know what he's meant to Michigan, what he's meant to Michigan tradition, what he's meant to be in the pride of being a Michigan person.
Thank you very much. There you go. There you go. Thank you very much. It's a great honor for me to have an opportunity to address all these Michigan football players from down through history. And I'm just tickled to death to be here. Interestingly, when I first came to Michigan, we took a picture of the 5 living coaches. We had Harry Kipke on one end, and Fritz Chrysler, Benny Oosterbaan, and then Bump and myself. And we took a picture out there today, and the 2 guys on the end are Bump and me. And I'm not so sure that's I wanted to take that picture. Right, Bump? I came here in 1969, as you know, and I inherited a bunch of guys that Bump had recruited, and Cecil Pryor and Jim Betts and Mandich and Curtis and Healy. And I can't think all of them. Pete Newell, I know Pete's here. I inherited all those guys and probably wouldn't have got them here if I had to recruit them. But I walked into some of the greatest football players and people that I had ever been associated with. And I was kind of a wild-haired coach back in those days. And I made them pay the price to have this great opportunity to play for me. And so that has been the kickoff of my career here. And it never changed, year after year after year. Great guys, a lot of victories, a lot of championships. And I enjoyed every minute of it. Because whether you realize it or not, when you're a football coach, the reason you coach is you people. The friends you make, the guys you coach. What's beautiful about football is that I know all you guys. The guys that played for me, I know them. I know if they'll fight. I know if they'll be loyal. I know if you can count on them or not. Because football brings that out in everybody that has ever played. And so all the guys that are here that have played for me, I know them well. You know what I wish I could do? I wish I could line up every one of them and tell you a story about each one. Because it would be interesting, but we don't have 15 hours to do that. So I can't do that. But I can tell you that the greatest experience of my life, of course, has been Michigan. I am Michigan. I believe in Michigan. Lloyd asked me to come back here for his high school football clinic. And when I came back, I told the coaches what I was doing before I came up. The night before I came up, I just got off the golf course, shot 106. I'm sitting in the back of this little old condo I got there, and I'm looking out over the Gulf of Mexico, and the most beautiful red sun is about to sink into the ocean. I got no feeling in my feet. As a matter of fact, I don't have any feeling halfway up my calf. I got a bad knee. My back is bad. My left shoulder, I can't lift my arm. I used to be a great pitcher, but I can't lift my arm. And I take 5 needle shots a day. I take 12 pills a day. And but I'm still alive. And I'm smoking a cigar. And you know what I did? I'm sitting there by myself. And I held up a bottle of Michelob Ultra. And I said to myself, you're the luckiest son of a bitch in the world. I mean, you had an opportunity for 21 years to coach at Michigan. And you met and coached all those great guys. Life is good. And that's exactly the way I feel. And you should too. Every single one of you. I ought to think back every once in a while and think about your life and the things that you've done here at Michigan, the things that you've done since you've left here, and the tremendous impact that this school and this program has had on your lives. Because all of us are lucky as sin to have an opportunity to play at Michigan. And so I'm just one of many here. You know, I'm lucky too because Lloyd's nice to me. And I have that little office over there in the football building, and I get to meet all these guys. And, you know, the interesting thing is Stanley Edwards played for me here, and now his son, Braylon Edwards, is playing. And, you know, I had all the Moeller kids. Every one of the Mallories played for me. I mean, just the doctors and lawyers and the great ones that we've had out here, the guys that have been highly successful since they've left. I made it a point when I coached, and any time I had a chance, I met all those guys that played in the 40s. I met all those guys that played in the 50s. And I was extremely fortunate because when I came here, there were good football players here ready to win championships. And so all I did was coach them as best I could. And, oh, there were some of them, as George Huey got carried away there, that wanted to pass a little more. But I never felt that the easy way was the way to go. I felt we wanted to beat down those opponents and let them know who was the strongest and the toughest. And it worked out all right. And in my career, I never looked back there and said, well, never won a national championship, have the worst Rose Bowl record in history. I never looked at those negatives. I looked at the positives, you know. Went to the Rose Bowl more than any team in history. And so, you know, we won a lot of championships. We did all those things, and we had a lot of fun doing it. But this is one of the greatest events that I've ever been to, and you guys have to admit it. There are damn few of you that I didn't remember, because you all had an impact on my life. Not all of it positive, but but you all were fun to be around and to coach, and so I'm tickled to death to be here. And I remember I appreciate you bringing my friend Alex Agassi up here. He coached Michigan football for 6 years and never got paid. There aren't many guys that do that. And so I went up to see Alex a couple of weeks ago before we came up here. And Alex said to me, he says, you know, Bo, I played at Illinois. I played at Purdue. I coached at Purdue. He said, but when Mike Leone called me and said, Alex, we got a plane ticket for you. We got a hotel room for you. And we want you back for this great Michigan reunion. And Alex won't admit it, but there were some tears in his eyes. And he said, I want to tell you one thing, Bo. There is no place anywhere like Michigan. That tradition is better than anywhere in this country. And gentlemen, it is. And we don't want to forget it, that we were all very fortunate that we were able to play and coach at Michigan. And it's not what we did for Michigan. No. It's what Michigan did for us. And so we ought to all be thankful of that and enjoy our time here tonight. You can all go dance if you want to. I don't think I could do it anymore. But we will have fun tonight. It's great seeing all of you. And we'll do it again sometime. I don't think we could do it next year. If we did, we'd kill Mike Leone. And I want to say, old Jamie, this little devil here, you know, he was a great back for me. He was the greatest ground gainer we had until Anthony Thomas broke his record. But this little devil worked his tail off, too. So have a good time. It's great to see you all, and always go blue.
As has been pointed out a number of times this evening, we've seen in Michigan coaches the passing of the mantle from one great coach to the next great coach to the next great coach. And Gary Moeller is just part of that tradition of greatness. A great teacher, a great person, a successful, wonderfully successful coach at Michigan, and a very successful coach in professional football, but most importantly, a great Michigan man, Gary Moeller.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's good. That's all right. Thank you. Obviously, thank you very much. A lot of things, and Bo said it best, and I always get in a damn position and following Schembechler. You know, it's just like the time when we first came to Michigan. I got to tell the story. I get a ride with Bo. I'm the rookie. I'm the youngest guy on the staff, so we're coming up from Miami. We get to Bowling Green. It starts to snow. He threw my ass in the back and said, "Hey, I'm driving from here." Okay, this is how we came into Ann Arbor. But I've been following a lot. Okay, but yet a very good friend, and obviously just a thrill for me to be back here tonight and meet the men of Michigan. You know, Harbaugh said it, Diggs said it, there's been so many comments about what all this is about. In the last 9 years, I've been with a few pro teams, and by the way, if anybody wants to know where I'm unemployed, okay, next year I'm going to sit back and look at a couple things. But at the same time, I grow every day, and I think it hit me as much this year as it ever has. Okay, and you play, and I don't want you to give you the wrong impression about professional football players that don't play, because they can play their butts off, as the guys in here that play know. And you understand that any week, anybody can beat anybody else. Okay, that's very, very important. But the thing that we're all fortunate, as we look back, and Harbaugh said it about family and different things, but what we're very, very fortunate is, it started in 01, 02, 03, and 04. I guess 4 national championships way back there. But we know how to win. And you know how to win, and you win on the field, men. And believe me, there's lessons to be learned. You learn off the field. He talked about family and all that. You learn how to win, okay? You learn how to win. And that isn't true with some people. I was in a position that in 23 years we won, can't believe it, 14 championships, I believe. We're at a clip right around those areas of 60% of the time we're winning a championship. That's the difference between some other guys and other teams and other coaches and some great pros that I've met. They don't know how to win. Because why? They have not been exposed to it. And you know, the senior leadership that we've preached so often, and I believe in those who stay will be champions very, very much. But Bo had another slogan, and I always used it, the team, the team, the team. It isn't about individuals, but how do I win and how do I lead? And there's so many things missing in that respect of other players. And not that they won't play hard, they just don't know how to do it. And that's why you're a part of your environment, and we're surrounded by those kind of people. And everyone had a place. Everyone had their job. The administration, the support people, the doctors, the trainers, everybody, the managers had a job that had to get done. And as you know, particularly when Bo was here, he rode herd and tough herd on all of those people. And yet we got MVPs of Super Bowls. We got NFL stars. We got Heisman Trophy winners and all. But it still goes back to the teams. The guys who were on the first team, the second team, the backup guys. How about the backup guys that we had, and they had to be the leaders because they were so important. Agassi coming out with baseball hats for our scout team players. The Fools, Fraternal Order of Offensive Looks, he used to call them. But everybody had a place, and I think that was so important. Remember, it's the character in the end, guys, that we all live with. It's the thing that Bo looks back to and talks about, and everybody else does, and that's what happens when you get a little bit old. I don't want to mention a lot of names, but I'm going to throw out a couple because it's too hard to remember all of you and the things that you remember, but there's certain things. But the money is one thing, the character and the values of the whole thing, when you get down there and you can't spend the damn money anymore, is the thing that, to me, that you take away from here and being a winner. Dr. O'Connor. Just think of the people and the quality of some of the people that have gone. Representing the 1971 team or the early teams. And one of the first guys I coached, other than Cecil Pryor, as soon as I got his butt squared away, then I went on to the next. But Butch Carpenter. And you remember Butch. And he's early 70s. Middle 70s, a guy like Dan Jellick and what he brought to all of us. Late 80s, John Vitale. And what do they leave with you guys? Those are important things, and I know I've left some people out, but those are the important things, and that's the thing I think that's missing. That's why some pro teams, believe me, can't win. They can't win because they don't have the leadership. I used to tell Bo this all the time. He said, Bo, how do you know that? I said, I just know when you're around that you can see it. That's why I always said, and a lot of you guys would laugh and say, well, Bo could never coach a pro ball because he's too tough. Yeah, he could do that in a heartbeat. There wouldn't be, because he knows how to lead people and he knows how to communicate with them. And that's what coaching's all about. And that's why he said, if you have guys like yourself that listen, in the same way in your employment today and what you're doing today, if you have those people who listen and you'll work hard and take those values, you're going to make it. You're going to make it. And I think that's what Michigan today means more to me, the team attitude, but at least you have been taught. Now, whether you do it or not is your own damn fault if you don't. You have been taught to know how to win and what it takes and what's the discipline, and that's why the team is the most important thing. I'd like to make just a couple thank yous for a couple things and bump this started with you and George Huey was alluding to it, and Bo did several times. That 68 team that we took over when we came up here. But I'm going to tell you guys, you haven't lived until you lived through the 1969 season. And you guys that were on that team in a lot of ways, that 69 year, and I know there's a lot of beautiful things. That week of preparation, as Bo and I were talking this morning, he says, shit, Mo, we didn't get a practice. No, I know it. The weather was so bad. We're out there shoveling the coaches too. Ice off the practice. But it didn't make any difference because we had a resolve that we wanted to win the game. The night before the game, as he said, we're carrying blankets or whatever. Well, I don't think we went that damn far, did we, to the players? The electricity was out in the hotel. It was colder than hell. And yet one of the greatest victories of all times was that time that we beat Ohio State in '69. And Woody always give Bo hell after that, as he reminded me today. And another thing is the 76 team. I'll never forget when we shut Ohio State out down there, and some of you guys are here. The 82 Rose Bowl team when we went out there, and Butch ran crazy. But we had a lot of, I'm not supposed to mention names. I didn't want to do that. But we had a lot of great people. And then I'm especially thankful for the guys that I coached for 5 years and was a head coach. And as it was in that tape, but probably the most beautiful memory there is when you go back. And this, again, is what Michigan's all about. In 1992, after getting our butts kicked by the University of Washington, and they had a great football team, we come back and went right back the next year and beat them in a very exciting game right at the end. And what it's all about, and when you know it's over, in the dark end, out there in the Rose Bowl, right in front of the Michigan crowd, when all of our players got to go down there and sing the greatest fight song of them all. It was a super, super feeling, and what a hell of a day. Just a hell of a day. Thanks to Bo, obviously. He's not only a great mentor to me, but he coached me when I played in college. He's more of a friend now, but as we know, they just don't come any better than that. There's no way. Leone, thanks a lot. You've done a hell of a job. Jamie, good job. Again, the most of the thanks goes to you guys. Because you are the men of Michigan. We're just a small part of that because, as we've said many times, it's a team, it's a team, the team. And God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Well, we've come to that moment where we're going to have our final speaker. And once again, we have the evidence that the Michigan tradition just doesn't stop. It just goes on from one great person, one great team to the next. And we've been blessed with that succession, and we've been blessed by the coaching of Lloyd Carr.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Coach Elliott, Coach Schembechler, Coach Moeller, and all of you. I can't tell you how great it is to be here. We each share our own memories of our experiences here at Michigan.
I want to share one of mine with you. 3 or 4 years ago, I went to training camp with the New York Jets out in Long Island, New York. I flew in late on an evening flight, got up about 6:30 in the morning, and I was in the office, and Coach Parcells met me, brought me into the office. The first thing he said to me was this. He said, "Lloyd, you know those guys at Michigan, there's nobody that loves their school like the guys from Michigan. Nobody." We went out on the field to practice a couple of hours later, and after the practice was over, and there were 70 or 80 guys there, and trying to make the team from all over the country and every school imaginable. And he brought the team together. He called up Jumbo Elliott. And he said to him, he said, "I want you to sing the victors." Corwin Brown was on that team. Jumbo's in his mid to late 30s. He's been to the Pro Bowl. He's played in the Super Bowl. He's done it all. And of course, Corwin was probably nearing 30 years of age. But honest to God, these two men got up and sang that song like they were when they were 18 years old. It was an unbelievable thing to see. And I know that you would have been as proud of them as I was. I want to say thanks, because the thing that I will always be appreciative for since I've become the coach at Michigan is the way I was accepted by those guys that I met who played well before I came here. Guys from the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. And I have never called a Michigan player to ask him to do something for this program and been refused. And I can't tell you how there's not another coach in the country that has the benefit of that kind of treatment. Time, money, energy, that new locker room, the extension of Schembechler Hall, all the things that we've needed, we've received. And much of it is due to you. I want to thank all the assistant coaches I worked with. It's amazing how many of those guys have come back here. And I'd like to have all those guys that assisted Coach Elliott and Bo and Mo and me to rise and be recognized. And you know, we got quite a few guys that played here that gone into college coaching that are here. The Maori guys, and I want those guys to stand and be recognized too, because I think, you know, they're the guys that are going to carry on this tradition. Where are you? I know you're here. Stand up there, Lyle, Harbaugh, Dave Arnold, Les Miles. Unbelievable. And I want to say a special thanks to two guys that I worked with when I was an assistant here. Bill McCartney's back. Where are you, Bill? He's up there. Great man and a great coach, and thanks for all you did for me. And of course, Gary Moeller, great friend, and I want to thank God that He gave me the incredible experience to coach with Bo Schembechler. And I just have one story to tell you about my experience and my greatest memory of Bo. And there's a million of them. But in 1982, January, all the coaches, we'd come back from the Blue Bonnet Bowl game. You guys that were down there remember. And I was in Chicago recruiting. The coaches were all over the country. And we were call in every day. There were no cell phones in those days, you know. We'd call in and we started to hear rumors. And the next thing you know, I think Wednesday or Thursday, we got a call that everybody should come in off the road. And by the time we got in, we all had been told that Bo was considering taking the job at Texas A&M. They had made him an offer that he was going to be the highest paid football coach in the history of the game. And so we came in, and on I think it was a Friday afternoon, he invited us all over to his house. And as we all sat down there, and there were some guys, you know, that wanted to go, and others that didn't. And Bo asked each of us what we thought. And at the end, this is what he said. He said, you know, how do I look those guys in the eye that I recruited here, that I promised that I would be here? How do I look those guys in the eye and tell them that I'm going to leave? What, for more money? And of course, he stayed. But just in the decision of why he stayed, I think he taught all of us what he was all about. He was about loyalty, and he's about integrity. And I think all of us that have been touched by him are so fortunate. And I want to thank all of those guys that I've had the opportunity to coach and to recruit here at Michigan. And I'd like to have Jim introduce Desmond Howard on the film, but I would like to have one of the great players we've ever had at Michigan. I see him down there. He won the Heisman Trophy too. His name is Charles Woodson. Charles, stand and be recognized, would you? But I'm proud of every guy that I've had the opportunity to coach here, just like all the other coaches. You've made us all proud. The last thing I want to do is I want to make all of you a promise. And that promise is that we're going to continue to try to attract the kind of people here to coach and to play this game that are just like you. That are just like the guys that Fritz Chrysler and Benny Oosterbaan and Bump Elliott and Bo Schembechler and Gary Moeller recruited here. And when they get here, we want them to be people of character, people who love the game, and people who are going to fight to win for Michigan. When they get here, we're going to teach them. We're going to try to teach them about what this place is all about that stadium, about that helmet, about that Block M, and about this tradition that you built. And we're going to try to help them to understand their responsibility to uphold it and to maintain it and to make it grow. So that 25 years from now, and 50 years from now, and 100 years from now, that this love for Michigan and this spirit and this enthusiasm will be sustained by those people who follow us. The last thing, I've been fortunate to be here for a number of times when President Ford spoke to the teams, going back to when Bo was here. His message was always consistent in one area. He would always look out at those teams and he'd say, "You are so lucky. You're lucky to play football here, and you're lucky to have an opportunity to go to this great school." And so I feel that same luck. I feel fortunate to represent you and the greatest football tradition in the history of the game. Thanks. Go Blue.
Well, team members, we've come to the end of this program, and as I sat there listening to each of these speakers, I only wish that 650,000 living University of Michigan alumni could be here to hear the quality of speeches, the commitment to the values that we hold true to be Michigan, to hear these great coaches, the respect for each other, to see this audience. I had the feeling tonight, Mike, and that we could have asked almost any, in fact, we could have asked any one of the people in this audience to get up and speak, and we would have heard the same quality and the same commitment and the same set of values expressed. When Louis Elbel wrote The Victors, he wrote it after a game in 1898 in Chicago where we'd beaten the University of Chicago to win the Western Conference Championship. He called this The Victors. He hummed it. He said, "Hail, hail to the victors, the leaders and the best and the champions of the West," and these words kept going through his mind. He brought back sheet music from Chicago back onto this campus, and the John Philip Sousa Band was playing in Old University Hall, and he passed out the words and the music to the victors, and the Sousa Band played it, the first time it was played anywhere. And John Philip Sousa said, "The Victors is the greatest fight song in America." Fielding Yost once said, "It's great that the Victors were written for the University of Michigan, because if it had been written for anybody else, it would not have been sung and played as often." The Victors, in a sense, is the way we should end tonight. I'm going to ask all the captains of the Michigan teams that are here to come down on the floor with us. Ask our speakers and our coaches to join in the singing of the Victors. And as the captains come down, I have just one announcement, and that is, will the assistant coaches that are here stay immediately after the meeting so that we can have a picture of the coaches, of all the coaches. So if the captains will come down. Bob Chappius, you've already proven you're a great singer. You get up here. Let's all stand. Coach Carr, Lloyd, will you start us off in the singing of the Victors, please?
Come on up here, Bo. You do it. You do it. Bo, get up here. Get up here.
Are you ready? Then let's begin. Hail to the victors valiant, hail to the conquering heroes, hail, hail to Michigan, the leaders and best. Hail to the victors valiant, hail to the conquering heroes, hail, hail to Michigan, the champions of the West. Well done, well done.